Okay, Chevra, Mimer Zion Perik Dala. Today we're going to talk about alcohol poisoning and whether or not you should do Averis and the effect it has on us. And it's going to wrap up the point that we were discussing, this entire Mimer of if you do Averis, do you end up winning or losing? Obviously you shouldn't do Averis because Hashem says not to do Averis. Now let's look at the inner intent. When you do Averis, do you grab more energy? Klippa, do you manage to beat the system, game the system? Or does it end up bad for you? You ready for the right at the end? Perik Dalet. Because we just discussed how when someone does Torah and mitzvahs, they bring Hashem into their life. And the Loisa says what not to do is to stop you from disconnecting from Hashem and to bringing Chayus into all the wrong places. Yeah, you guys know the song? In all the wrong places. Fine. So you know the famous song? No? So some people are connected in the wrong places. If you do Averis, you connect to Klippa. Perik Daled, you ready? What do we learn from everything we talked about? The inner, Hashem's inner will, comes down through Torah mitzvahs. Rakli Yisrael, only to the Yidden who follow Hashem's Torah. But to the other side, to the bad guys, only comes the leftover dregs. Remember we spoke about the wine dregs, just the leftovers? So that's what goes to the bad guys. Priceless and the garbage. The kitzoini is the outer intent of Ratzon Elyon, not what Hashem really wants. Just like our previous mashal of the king, who what he really wants is all his friends to have a great party. And it happens on the side that the waiters will eat the leftovers. Okay, but he doesn't. That's not what he's interested in. According to this movement, we can understand the fact that the sinning person, imagine that you had an office in Manhattan with a big golden sign on the door. Fine. You bring down, God forbid. Yeah? Definitely, there'll be a lot of time there. You bring extra energy via Nikla Sitra Achra and extra suckling to the Sitra Achra, like the leeches eating someone. So, like if you go wade in the swamp, you're going to give them extra chayas. The reason that you're able to give to the outside is because you're someone who is connected to the inner intent. So here's something very interesting. Let's say with the king's banquet, the inner intent is to make a party for all his friends. On the outside, the dogs under the table get a bone. Who can provide bones for dogs under the table? Not other dogs. Only one of the king's friends, a high minister, the foreign minister of policies.
Because he's animal abuse.
Maybe there we go, the Minister of Animal Affairs, he gets a seat at the table, and because he's the king's friend and gets a seat at the table, now if he wants he can give his whole meal to the dogs. It'll be a waste of his meal if he throws the whole thing, a $400 cheesecake, he just throws down to the dogs. But he could do that. So the reason a Yid is in a position to be the one who gives the most energy to the Sitra Achra and the evil places is because you are connected to Hashem directly. So with the great honor comes great responsibility. Since you're so directly connected to Hashem, therefore you can go and you can bring Mashiach, you can bring godliness into the world, or you can throw away all the godly energy you were entrusted with to the Sitra Achra. So, even though you get the first and foremost portion of Sitra Achra energy, you are the honored guest. If the guy, the minister who gives the dogs all the food, goes and joins the... you have to give a better example. The minister who gives away all his food as leftovers to the servants, he's going to be very honored by the servants. If he goes to live with the servants, they're going to give him a top seat at the table, yeah? Nevertheless, in the end, it's not going to work out. Your energy you're getting from Sitra Achra is going to be cut off. On the contrary, Sitra Achra noipim mimenu. The Sitra Achra, the evil forces, are going to take their vengeance, their revenge from him. Wow, the revenge of the Sitra Achra. New mimer coming out. So, I tried for a long time to think up a mashal for this, and I finally came up with a mashal. You ready? Tell me what you guys can see in this beautiful illustration.
So there's this Indian guy.
Yeah, Indian.
And this English guy.
Yeah.
And he says, I want to sacrifice your pig. So
No.
He's giving
What's he giving him?
All the leathers and...
Very good, he's trading furs. There we go. The Indians were great trappers. They could trade furs. And what's he getting in exchange?
Oh, he's getting a barrel
Protection,
with
right?
money.
Almost. What else do you guys put in barrels? Wine, almost. What would you put in a barrel?
Food, water.
If you
Slaves.
are a English
Slaves.
explorer in the 1700s, what do you
Slaves.
put in your barrels? Not
Slaves.
exactly.
Water.
Whiskey.
What?
Tons and tons of whiskey. So this is an illustration of something that's very common. You would have Indians who are fantastic trappers who would go hunt down beavers and moose and whatnot, and they would trade it with the local settlers for something incredible that they'd never experienced before, that they called firewater, which was whiskey. They had never
No way,
seen this
like,
before.
Like Indian picture because of that.
What do you mean?
You find bottles like with Indian faces on it.
Maybe that's why.
Chief on it, whatever.
What about
Yeah.
what? Whiskey?
Like brands of
Wait,
beer
wait.
and stuff. There's
Yeah,
different
I think
companies
so.
like, but
because they made the brewery in the places.
so what do they have over there? You have Native Indians in Wisconsin? You have American Indians there?
The social.
No?
Where's the main communities of the
Is it
Native
Amish
Indians?
They have the main community of American Indians are on what they call reservations. So you go to some places such
Yeah.
as in Dakota or in Arizona. I drove through one. There we go, Arizona. I drove
Oh, they
through
actually
it.
dress up like as Indians, or they just?
No, they're just regular guys.
But they're descendants of the.
They are not only descendants, they are the Indians. They're still the same people. They still live on their tribal lands, the ones that they weren't kicked out of. It's very, that's what people do. Every country ever every people and population that's conquered other people usually kick them out.
Yeah.
And so what happened, very interesting. The Europeans who came to America, how long had they been drinking alcohol for in their history?
Years.
Thousands and thousands of years, right? The native Indians had never seen alcohol in their life. So as soon as the Europeans got here, they got very excited. We can trade you. Sure, we'll trade you our fur. We'll trade you all the good stuff. Whatever you like, as long as you give us some of this delicious, fascinating experience, firewater. They felt like they were getting religious experiences. They'd never had it before. As opposed to
Never
people
felt
like
drunk.
us, who our ancestors were having alcohol since the times of the Beis Hamikdash. They were drinking wine, was part of the minhag, and every Jewish person descends from people, practically every Jewish person descends from people who have been making Kiddush at least every Shabbos. So part of our system is used to a certain amount of alcohol. The native Indians were used to zero alcohol. So as soon as they had a tiny bit, it was like, whoa, massive experience, a high. Yes, you're all
Everybody's like, oh, what is this?
They like had explosions of fireworks in their head. So they were getting more and more. And the more furs and valuable items they brought to Europeans, the more alcohol they would get. Like we say over here, the guy who's giving to the Sitra Achra, if someone's going and doing an Averis, he's putting his energy, his valuable resources to the other side, he's going to get the first and foremost portion. Like the Indian who's going and giving away all their fur trappings to the Europeans, he's going to get a nice massive barrel of whiskey. Is that going to work out for him? Right now, it's delicious. It's incredible. It's a spiritual experience as far as they're concerned. But what's going to happen? In the end, he's going to get cut off and it's going to take revenge from him. It's going to be the worst thing for him.
Because they're gonna conquer when it's strong.
Not only that, did you know this alcohol, because it's not in their system, therefore it had the biggest effect and it feels so good that it was killing them. I looked up the statistics. Do you know, even today, after a good 300 years of drinking alcohol, native Indian alcohol-related deaths in America are 4 times higher than the rest of the population. For every American who dies because of alcohol, there's 4 times as many.
Yeah, but there's not even a million Indians in the world.
Okay, so you do the
Indians are
statistics.
tiny. They're just a tiny group.
Okay, so you know how statistics work? That the percentage of these people that are dying, the percentage of those people that are dying.
Can I just add something?
Yes, sure.
It's just also funny.
Okay, so now we figured out with the native Indians that even though they get the most delicious alcohol, in the end, it's going to kill them. Same thing with a Yid giving chayes to Klippa. So, v'hainu, meaning to Aval Bishachoti Yisrael who. The reason is because even though he sinned, and even though he's going down and dirty into the Klippa, nevertheless he's a Yid. Mitzad Nishmazim from the Neshama, who mipnimi is a Kedusha. His Neshama is connected to Hashem's inner Kedusha. V'idei mitzvahs shekayim koidem shechata. And you know what? He's such a Yid that when he did mitzvahs before he sinned, he brought down the pnimis of Hashem into the side of Kedusha. He was part of bringing Hashem into this world, bringing Mashiach. This guy's 100% good. So if God forbid he starts to sin and brings down his godly energy into Klippa, he brings down superpower energy, extra chayas to the Klippa from the pnimius. Like it says. So what's the issue? The issue is he's in the wrong place. Naturally, he cannot handle Klippa. He's bringing down tons of chayas into Klippa, but he can't handle it. Like a native Indian who's drinking tons of alcohol, is having a great time, but it's not going to work out for very long. Like it says, in Seder HaNazifa. So this is an interesting one, a nusach that some people say. Anyone here ever said Seder HaNazifa? Some people say it in Erev Rosh Hashanah when they're annulling their vows. They say this part of davening. I don't think it's down on nusach. That the water that goes out from the house of Hashem. He went to a disgusting place. The disgusting woman, which would be the Yetzer Hara. So what's going on over here? That, just like in the Beis Hamikdash, they had all the leftovers from the offerings and the blood and whatnot. They had to drain it out, and it went down into the river, and it could end up as being used as fertilizer. Same thing with our house of Hashem inside ourselves. We could put that chayos and energy and goodness, we could put it into very bad places if we decide to do so. So, this guy who's giving to Klippa, he gets first and foremost portion. Bashbois, Gashmias, and all the physical pleasures. Since he's the one giving extra energy, just like the Indian trapper giving the furs, the beaver furs, to the alcohol salesman. But everything has its time and place. That's an important pasuk. You guys should remember that one. Everything has its time and place. So once this guy's already lost, God forbid, the portion of his soul, and the portion of goodness in him, Hashem Yishmeinu, Hashem guard us. Then he doesn't receive any more chayos from them. Wow, so he gets used up for everything he's worth, and then he gets thrown out on the street. So as long as you're connected to Hashem, you're giving so much Hashem energy into the Klippa. And as soon as you run out of Hashem energy, because you're so invested in Klippa, Klippa's like, we don't need you anymore. You know, the guy's coming to the gangster, and he's like, boss, I got you a lot of money. Boss, I brought you in money. And he's like, boss is like, gives him the top seat, gives him all the honor, gives him money. And he's like, wow, this is great being a gangster. The minute he stops bringing in money, he's on the street. He's a nobody. And now he's got nothing. Now he's a wanted man, and there's no gang protection. So, he shouldn't get involved in the first place. Hashem Yishmeinu, Hashem save us from such terrible things. He doesn't receive any chayas anymore. Keep it etzem. You know why? Because deep down, because the guy's a yid, he has to receive his chayas from the pnimius, the inner intent of Hashem, which is through Torah and mitzvahs, meaning from the straightforward, inner will of Hashem. How does that come to the world? Through, you'll never believe this, how you bring Hashem into your life. Torah mitzvahs, wow, plot twist. Canal, like we discussed many times earlier. And as we're going to discuss many times further. It's interesting, often in Chassidus you see canal, when they're mentioning something, you already mentioned in Maamer, he says canal, like we already discussed. When he's mentioning something, it's going to be discussed in more detail later. He says Kamoshi Spar, like we're going to explain later. Here he says Kanal Ukamoshi Spar. We discussed this, we're going to keep discussing it, we're going to discuss it forever. Torah mitzvahs is the way to go. Because this guy fell down into the Klippa factory. Through his sins, he's receiving to them from the extra chayas that he's giving to them. So, the whole point that he's bringing across in this parak is that even though it could work to go down to Klippa and receive chayas from Klippa, because naturally your inner essence, who are you, is a yid, and the way you work, like Menachem says, you're in an advanced operating system, and you only work based off Hashem chayos. Therefore, you're not going to last based off these things. You're not going to last based off of it. So what you get from these clippers is only temporary. Afterwards, you don't receive anything from them. This isn't his place to receive from the Acharayim. Rather, goyim, they can live off that. That works for them. They can receive from Acharayim. They can always receive the chayas from there. So let's go back to our Indian trapper. These Europeans he's doing business with, they probably get drunk every Sunday or every weekend, and you know what? They're doing fine. They're doing just fine. Why? Because they've been getting drunk since they were kids. Their parents were getting drunk. Their grandparents were getting drunk, and it's part of their system. Who they are, there's a lot of alcohol in their culture and in their bloodstreams for generations. as opposed to the Indian guy that's not how he works, and he just needs regular nutrients. Maybe they could handle other things a bit better. So with them, it's destructive. Same thing with a Yid. A Yid is only shaykh to pnimius, to kedusha. And when he gets involved in klippa, it's just not going to work for him. To live like a goy is not going to work for you, because a Yid is different than a goy in their spiritual inside. They have a different soul. A Yid's neshama is only shaykh to kedusha. Avli Yisrael, hachoitik rechman l'slam, let's say a sinning Yid, rechman l'slam, rak lefi shah, only for temporary, for limited time only. Noitel mehem chelkoi shem shechlem, he receives a portion from the klippa. Hashem Yisrael was there. May Hashem guide us from this. Avli achakach, but afterwards, enim kabel mehem shefa v'chayosoi, or behechach shetuf sokash bo. He doesn't receive anything more, and in the end, you got to say, the life force is going to be cut off. I want to finish this mimer today, so we're going to go a bit faster, even though there's a lot more explanation I want to say. So let's say this person, even if he's learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, at exactly the same time that he's doing Averis. So you ever learn Torah and did mitzvahs at the same time you're doing Averis? So you're putting a coin in the pushka while learning Gemara, while eating something not kosher. Kamaira, like it says in Brachos, even those who are empty amongst you are full of mitzvahs, just like a pomegranate is full of seeds. Wow, so even the sinning Yidden are doing lots of mitzvahs. Hine koidim sh'aseh tshuva. Before the guy does tshuva, until he does tshuva, ain't Torah sevikim mitzvahs v'tzurim v'kablim l'maylo. Hashem doesn't want his Torah mitzvahs. They're not going to go up to Hashem as long as Torah mitzvahs are tainted and held back by klippa. They're not going to be able to go up to Hashem, like it says in the Torah. How can a person fly up above if he's still chained down below? When she calls it, like it says in Tehillim, l'Rasha Amar, to the Rasha, he says like him. What does Hashem say to the Rasha? Why are you saying over my Torah? And why are you carrying my covenant? Rashi, which Rashi explains to me in my Torah. Olai picha upon your mouth. But you have hated being told off, being told the right thing to do. And you've thrown my words behind you. End of quote. Meaning, don't in the heart, don't you hate being told off? And haven't you thrown Hashem's words behind your back? Like someone throws something they doesn't even want to see. You guys ever seen the video when this missionary goes past the Rebbe by dollars, and the guy, it's Meshugana, he's a Jewish guy, he gives the Rebbe a pamphlet about converting to Christianity. So the Rebbe takes the pamphlet and throws it away and says, I only took it so you don't give it to someone else. So when someone really is disgusted by something, they just throw it away. So when someone who's just throwing away the words of Hashem, why would Hashem want such a guy? Yeah, if you're a person who's just doing Averis every day, you're like, Hashem's words, I'll throw it away. Why would Hashem accept you? Therefore, he doesn't draw down Hashem's godliness through learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Like it says in Bereishis Chachma, who's ready for some Musar? You didn't expect that. Musar in the middle of a Chassidus year. Sharat Shuvah, Soperek Beis, ready for it? It says, V'zal. He says as follows. Whoever is full of the disgusting excrement of his sins, his Torah is not pleasant to his creator. The reason, because when you're involved in learning Torah, you're drawing down Hashem's dwelling on you. When someone's clean from sins, the Shekhinah finds a beautiful place to sit down on, to dwell in. Hashem comes into your life. When someone is dirty with the stain of sins. Very romantic way of writing. The Torah does not dwell in him. Because the Torah does not have any throne to rest on. There's no place for the Torah in you. The Torah, the Shekhinah, it just doesn't get involved in your life. Since the person is not a proper place for Hashem's or so through his learning Torah, mitzvahs and keeping mitzvahs, without doing tshuva, mitzchila first, which if you would do tshuva first, it will be a whole different story, like we'll discuss in a second. You don't draw down any or from above at all. You can't draw down or into you can't draw down or into the world. You think through learning Torah you're bringing Hashem into the world. Well, if Hashem can't come into you, how can he come into the world? Hashem comes into the world through you. You think changing the world is about like the trees and the mountains? No, it's about changing yourself. And through changing yourself, you change everything around you. Klippus is someone who gives himself over, sells himself to the klippus. They're going to get back at him. They're going to take revenge on him. Like it says at length in the Zoya. Hashem save us from them. Putting our souls to serve him with truth, over him and with wholeheartedness. Talmud Kol Yom all the days. Kitzer, after the Kitzer, you have to remind me to talk about whether your Torah counts if you do Averis. Kol Yisrael, in short, all Yidden mitzad nishpasim because of their soul, mitzad kiyam mitzvah mitzvahs, and because of keeping Torah mitzvahs, hem pneumius ratzon and they receive from the inner intent of Hashem's will. When you sin, you get extra life force from the klippa because you're giving it your pneumius power. Have on the sacrifice. In the end, it's going to be cut off. Before you do tshuva, your Torah mitzvah isn't one of Hashem. You don't bring down Hashem's ar. If you give yourself over to evil, it's going to get back at you. Just for the record, if someone does a virus, you should still learn Torah, even though it's not going to be accepted by Hashem. Because when you do tshuva, when you decide to rid yourself of all the Averis, then all the Torah you've learned in the meantime is going to go right back up to Hashem. As opposed to if you don't learn any Torah, then there's nothing to go back to Hashem. So always learn Torah no matter your situation. Also, learning Torah is something that's going to get you to do tshuva. As opposed to if you stop learning Torah, then how are you going to be pushed to do tshuva?